We obtained documents from the Baltimore Children and Youth Fund that showed that your wife was personally paid $50,000 taxpayer dollars through the fund. Do you think that's a conflict of interest?
I've said what I said about this, and you have to understand that as a man, maybe one day you will have a wife. I wish that for you. That I am not going to allow you and the MAGA-loving folks at your station to tarnish my wife and my family.
We are back in Baltimore. Bad news for Mayor Brandon Scott. $51,000 of taxpayer money going to his wife, and that nonprofit took the money, folded, and then stiffed its landlord on the way out. Spotlight on Maryland pulled the documents. I checked them out. We're gonna go through this video right here because it shows that, listen, if you're Brandon Scott's friends or his family, he's gonna take care of you. The taxpayers, he doesn't care that much.
The wife of Mayor Brandon Scott received more than $50,000 taxpayer dollars through a program meant to serve local youth. Patrick Huff with our Spotlight on Maryland team has the investigation.
We've worked for more than a year to obtain documents showing how the Baltimore Children and Youth Fund spends millions of taxpayer dollars each year that is guaranteed in the city charter. We finally got those documents, and here's what we found. BCYF operates as a nonprofit that receives about $16 million taxpayer dollars each year. Since 2022, BCYF sent about $250,000 of those taxpayer dollars to a nonprofit called BCYF Speaking, which provides mentorship to children through making jewelry. However, that money moved through another nonprofit that acts as BCYF Speaking's fiscal sponsor, Bmore Empowered, which employed Hana Scott, the wife of Mayor Brandon Scott, as its director of operations. We obtained documents in a public information request from BCYF that revealed Hana Scott received $51,000 in taxpayer funds from August 2024 to September 2025. That same month that the money stopped flowing to the mayor's wife, Bmore Empowered announced it was shutting down operations, leaving uncertainty about how remaining taxpayer money was spent.
Hold on. So let's stop right there for a second so we can digest what we just heard. Now, I've talked about these organizations in previous videos over the last year or so, where there's a conflict of interest. You can see the dates there. Brandon Scott was the mayor during that time where she was getting paid some of this money. So he's going to try to finesse it. He's going to try to use race and try to change the subject because it does not look good for him at all. So let's look at this machine. The BCYF, this is the Baltimore Children and Youth Fund, is guaranteed money in the city's charter, roughly $16 million. 99% of it is city funded. That money is supposed to reach kids through grassroots programs. So you can follow the pipe here. BCYF sends about $250,000 to a group called BCYF Speaking as a mentorship, making jewelry. Fine. But the money doesn't go straight there. It routes through a fiscal sponsor called Bmore Empowered, and the director of operations is the mayor's wife. Now, fiscal sponsorship is a real legal thing. Small nonprofits without tax-exempt status needs a bigger organization to handle the money. So I'm not going to pretend that this is inherently shady because it isn't. The problem is when the pass-through employs the mayor's wife and the mayor's office appoints someone to the board that votes on these grants, that's not a coincidence anymore. That seems to be a structure.
Scott and BCYF did not respond to questions about the $50,000 taxpayer dollars. We took these concerns to Mayor Scott.
We obtained documents from the Baltimore Children and Youth Fund that showed that your wife was personally paid $50,000 taxpayer dollars through the fund. Do you think that's a conflict of interest? And can you say how much money she's been paid in taxpayer dollars since you've been in office?
I'm going to say this again, because I've addressed this multiple times with this kind of tomfoolery, as my grandfather would say, attacking this organization simply because my wife used to work there in the position she held before we even met is wrong, right? And people can see through the tricks that you guys are trying to play. This organization's work as a fiscal agent for smaller organizations as a pastor. This is not about someone's personal money.
Well, she was paid in 2024 and 2025, though, so that...
I'm going to say this again to you. I've said what I said about this, and you have to understand that as a man, maybe one day you will have a wife. I wish that for you. That I am not going to allow you and the MAGA-loving folks at your station to tarnish my wife and my family.
So this is typical Brandon Scott, just like the rest of these types of mayors. Instead of focusing on the question at hand, he wants to change the subject, talk about racism, talk about attacking his family. Mocking reporter saying, I wish you will be married so you can understand what he's going through, which is ridiculous. You don't even know if the man is married or not. That's not the point. This reporter is trying to find is transparency. The documents obtained through public information shows that Hana Scott received $51,000 of taxpayer money between 2024 and 2025. So again, he was the mayor at this point. In the same month the money stops, Bmore Empowered announces shutting down. The money dries up, the organization disappears. So what did she actually do with the $51,000? The documents don't describe a single service. Bmore Empowered's own tax forms never even listed her salary as the director of operations. So you have taxpayer money going through one person, no description of work, and the organization dissolves right as the questions start to land. So it's pretty obvious that people are going to look at this paper trail and start to ask questions.
The mayor did not answer our question about how much taxpayer money his wife received. The mayor's financial disclosures from 2025 and 2024 lists his wife's employment and income with Pew Insights, her consulting firm. However, her work with Bmore Empowered was not disclosed, despite the organization receiving roughly $300,000 city taxpayer dollars in recent years. The BCYF documents did not describe what services Hana Scott provided for the $51,000. Bmore Empowered's tax forms never revealed Hana Scott's salary as its director of operations.
You know, you've got a lot of different red flags here that are concerning.
That's Amanda Beck, a professor at Georgia State University who specializes in nonprofit accounting and government audits.
Is it a conflict of interest for the mayor's wife to receive city taxpayer dollars through a nonprofit?
Yes, it is a conflict of interest because the interest being, you know, the taxpayer wants transparency for where the funds are going. So you've got the 50,000 paper trail kind of being discovered around the same time that the nonprofit is potentially in maybe some kind of financial trouble or for some reason is shutting down. And I think a really concerning part about that last piece is that if the nonprofit no longer exists, then who is going to be responsible for disclosing the disposition of those final assets?
Hana Scott was not the only Bmore Empowered employee to receive money through BCYF. Documents we obtained show that both of Bmore Empowered's co-founders got money. About $50,000 taxpayer dollars to Naza Amin. And over here, another $15,000 taxpayer dollars to Kieda Amin. Plus another $2,000 to Kareem Amin, the husband of Bmore Empowered's co-founder.
Everybody was getting money. Everyone was getting paid. This is the one thing that Scott can't talk his way out of. Like I said in this piece earlier, his 2024 and 2025 financial disclosures, the mayor listed his wife's employment at Pew Insights, her consultant firm, so he knows how disclosure works. He did it himself. But her role in Bmore Empowered, the organization pulling $300,000 in city taxpayer dollars, not disclosed. It's not there. You disclose the consulting firm, but not the nonprofit swimming in city money your appointees help oversee. That's not a mistake or an oversight. You don't forget the inconvenient one by accident. This is where his whole "she worked there before we met" defense collapses. Now, she did start in 2021, and apparently they met in 2022. Fine. That's not the issue. The issue is she was getting paid taxpayer dollars while he was the mayor, while your office had a seat on the board steering those funds. And you left it all on your forms. Timing of the job isn't the problem. The silence is. As much as he wants to talk about MAGA is concerned, I mean, you can see from this professor, the nonprofit accounting professor from Georgia State, went on the record and said this is a conflict of interest because taxpayers deserve to know where the money is going. That's not a MAGA talking point. That's an auditor.
Would you say this looks like a system that's working?
I think it's very clear that the system is not working or that it hasn't worked. It makes you wonder if it was a convenient setup, essentially, to sort of be able to direct funds towards preferred recipients and it kind of not allowing citizens to provide much oversight over who and why different organizations are receiving the funds.
Spotlight on Maryland reported last year on how Bmore Empowered received about $80,000 through the taxpayer-backed Downtown Partnership nonprofit to open an office at this Baltimore City location on North Howard Street. However, that office never opened, and the organization instead moved into this office on North Charles Street, where it was sued in September for not paying rent, and since moved out before officially closing operations.
So you see right there, more taxpayer money to open an office on North Howard Street. The office never opened. They moved it to a different place instead, and that's where they got sued in September for not paying the rent, lost, and moved out before shutting down entirely. So it wasn't just the mayor's wife eating off this. There were a lot of people getting a lot of money, And the problem is the mayor doesn't want to talk about it, does not want to be transparent. It looks like it's a convenient setup to route public money to preferred people while us citizens out there locked out of any oversight or transparency. And now the organization is gone, so who's accountable for the leftover taxpayer cash? I guess nobody. And that's the whole game. Money goes in, the organization dissolves, and questions remain unanswered. So let's bring this home. It doesn't matter if a crime was committed or not. This is some ethical questions here that plagued Brandon Scott's entire administration. The man takes care of his friends and family. He will throw out taxpayer money to help them out. The moment you ask him questions about it, he will throw out that you're being racist. See, if the only way you can question him is you must be some kind of MAGA Republican, you can't have legitimate issues or questions for him and how he runs his organization. And this has been going on since he's been mayor. For the SUV he overpaid for, the stadium suite that he uses, to his wife involvement, taking taxpayer money for no reason. This is how he responds every time there's some level of pushback. But let me know what you guys think about this story in the comments below. Thank you for taking time to watch this video. And I'll see you guys in the next video.